Representative Peifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, Secretary. Initially, in January, you listed 5 SCI locations of possible closure. As it turns out, we were told it would probably be one on the west side of the state and one on the eastern side of the state. As it turns out, as the chairman just said, you ended up closing the SCI Pittsburgh location with an $80 million savings. What does that do? I guess number one is, how did you come to the conclusion of only closing one site compared to the 2 that we were told? And number 2, where does that leave the remaining 4 locations in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, so let's start with one of the things that was different this time, and after the train wreck of the previous closures, what we committed to do is inform folks earlier on and go through a process that also factored in economic impact and specifically disparate economic impact. So is there an area that would be overly negatively impacted by the closings? And in this case, the site at SCI Pittsburgh, as some of the DCED type folks got involved, it became clear that not only was it disparate, but the potential for the site at Pittsburgh was significant from a financial standpoint, from a redevelopment standpoint. So that also allowed us to close one prison instead of 2, impact 550 employees instead of closer to 800, and 1,700 or 1,800 inmates versus 2,500 inmates. So that's how we came to that. As far as the other ones, at this point, our operational capacity will go from about 105% of operational capacity up to 109%. After the last closure, we went up to 110%. And that was 2013. So it's slightly lower than that. So we're not in a position, because we closed one bigger one, to consider closing anything else at this point. But the population is still trending down. I believe we're down at about 49.1 somewhere, 49.1 or 49.2. So I think in the next 2 years, assuming the population continues to trend down, we'll probably be at a place where we'll have to have these discussions again.
So in the immediate future, no, but in the future, the possibility exists?
That would be my guess, yeah.
What about the federal government? I know our county leases space to the federal government. We've done that for a long time. I think it's a New England group of ICE that comes and rents space. Has the federal government approached you or the administration or to one, lease any space, or would they be interested in one of these facilities to operate on their own?
So it's a potential. Certainly, I think the ideal for the state, if we'd go down that road, both other states and the feds, would be that we would lease the space to them and use our staff. That way we still have facilities operating, but there'd be no cost to the state. As a matter of fact, a profit to the state. When these 5 facilities were first announced, we went and met with our congressional delegation in D.C. To ask for their assistance to explore it. We're relatively early on in that exploration. But I think we should continue on that path to identify as our population goes down. If we could backfill them with beds that we're getting paid for, it certainly makes sense.
Yeah, we've had a very successful relationship there in Pike County for a number of years, and I think it's something that we need to look at, considering we're losing some of our inmates, and we have these facilities and we have these great employees. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.